Chapter 6 Parayi Pettu Pandirugulam. Vararuchi, the author of distinguished works like Vakyam and Paralperu based on astrology, was the eldest son of Govindaswamy, who is believed to have initiated the spiritual colossus Adi Shankara into the world of the Vedas. Vararuchi was a close confidant of King Vikramaditya, his half brother. Though a scholar and a philosopher, he was not a yogi. Yet, he possessed demonstrable spiritual attainments. So, the king always sought his opinion and advice in all matters. One day, King Vikramaditya asked him, which is the most renowned verse in the great epic Ramayana? Unfortunately, though Vararuchi was a literary genius, he was unable to identify the specific verse. He stood helplessly in the court, embarrassed. People say you are a great scholar, and you don't even know this? What a shame, King Vikramaditya said scornfully. Vararuchi stood crestfallen amidst the courtiers. Go, try and find the correct answer from someone. I shall grant you some time. If you cannot get me the correct answer within 41 days, you need not return. The king gave his ultimatum. Vararuchi left the palace with a heavy heart. He traveled from place to place, met teachers, literary experts, and scholars, but no one gave him a satisfactory answer. All the verses in the Ramayana are equally important, all of them said vehemently. Days went by. Only one day was left to meet the king's deadline. Vararuchi was panic stricken. Only one day left? I don't think I will succeed in my mission. The king will be thoroughly displeased. People who acknowledge me as a scholar will ridicule me. It is better to die than to live in shame, he said to himself. He could no longer bear the mental agony. The whole day he wandered about aimlessly and at night found himself in a jungle. There he saw a huge banyan tree standing on a dilapidated platform. Drained both mentally and physically, he lay down on the platform. Protect me, O goddesses of the forest, he prayed before slipping into sleep. It happened that there were some devatas, fairy goddesses, who occupied the tree. They took pity on his plight and decided to heed his prayer. In the meanwhile, a group of celestial damsels living elsewhere happened to come that way. They were on their way to witness the delivery of a baby by a paraya, a low caste woman. Come along, they invited their friends on the tree to join them. We cannot come. Look at the handsome youth sleeping beneath the tree. He is in distress and needs our help. You may please proceed. But on your return, please drop by and give us the details of the newborn. The fairy goddesses declined the invitation politely. Their guests went on their way. In the last quarter of the night, Vararuchi woke up. He lay on his left side, still brooding over his plight. Meanwhile, the damsels who had gone to witness the delivery came back. Where was the delivery? What about the newborn? The goddesses on the tree asked anxiously. The delivery was in a Paraya home. A baby girl was born to the Paraya couple. The guests replied. Can you foretell who will marry her when she grows up? The goddesses on the tree asked. Poor girl, she is destined to be the wife of Vararuchi, the man sleeping beneath your tree. And he is a person who does not even know the most distinguished verse in the Ramayana. The guests chuckle. By the way, which is the most distinguished verse in the Ramayana? The goddesses on the tree inquired eagerly. The one starting with the words, Mam Vidhi, he replied the guests before leaving. Vararuchi was lying awake and overheard the conversation between the goddesses. He had stumbled upon the right answer and he was immensely happy. At the same time, he was overcome with a sense of gloom at the prophecy that he would end up marrying a girl of lower caste. However, he got up and returned to the palace. King Vikramaditya was worried about his friend. But the courtiers were happy as they were jealous of Vararuchi for the respect and regard the king bestowed on him. But their joy was short lived, as they saw a jubilant Vararuchi in the court on the day of the king's deadline. Success, success, exclaimed the beaming Vararuchi. The king gave him a warm welcome. Welcome, my dear brother. I was sure you would succeed in your mission. Please recite the most renowned verse from the Ramayana. King Vikramaditya said affectionately. Vararuchi stood near the king's throne and began to recite. Ramam Dasharatham Vidhi, Mam Vidhi Janakatmajam. Ayodhyam Adavim Vidhi Gacha Tata Yeta Sukham. This was followed by a thunderous applause in the court. Your Highness, this is the most important couplet in the Ramayana. The verse Mam Vidhi Janakatmajam is the most substantial combination of words in the couplet. Vararuchi concluded while others looked on with awe and reverence. Vararuchi then went on to give a commentary of the couplet as follows. Your Majesty, you may be pleased to listen to this. Sri Rama and Sita Devi were ready to go to Vanavasam, with Lakshmana for company. When Lakshmana fell at the feet of his mother Sumitra, she called him aside and advised, Ramam Dasharatham Vidhi. Rama is Dasharatha, which means consider your elder brother Rama as your father Dasharatha. Janakatmajam Mam Vidhi. Consider Sita, the daughter of Janaka, as me. Adavim Ayodhyam Vidhi. Consider the forest as Ayodhya. Yata Sukham Gacha. Proceed happily. Thus Vararuchi concluded, much to the joy of the king. But he went on, Your Highness, you may be pleased to listen to this too. Ramam Dasharatham Vidhi. Consider Rama as Lord Vishnu. Janakatmajam Mam Vidhi. Consider Sita as goddess Lakshmi. Ayodhyam Adavim Vidhi. Without Rama, Ayodhya is a forest. Gacha Tata Yata Sukham. So dear, you proceed happily. Vararuchi concluded a different version of his commentary, much to the amazement of the king and the courtiers. He went on with 8 more versions of the commentary, which was followed by another round of thunderous ovation in the court. King Vikramaditya embraced his half brother and honored the savant by sharing the throne with him. He showered precious gems and gold coins on him. After the court was dispersed, both of them sat in an anteroom, and the subsequent conversation touched upon a number of topics, personal and political. During the conversation, Vararuchi disclosed the news about the birth of the baby girl in the Paraya family. It does not augur well. The birth foretells the doom of the kingdom. To save our land, we will have to get rid of the child. Vararuchi sounded like a prophet. The king found no reason to disbelieve a great soul like Vararuchi. He at once gave an order to his commandants to trace down the infant and to do away with her. Vararuchi gave them an idea about the location of the Paraya hut. Accordingly, they went and located the house. They snatched the infant from her mother's lap, pierced a pandam, a flaming torch, into her crown, laid her in a small raft made of plantain sheets, and threw the raft into the river. When he got the news, Vararuchi heaved a sigh of relief. Where is the fool who said destiny cannot be changed? He guffawed loudly. He happily settled down in his house and led a peaceful life. Vararuchi marries. During one of his travels, Vararuchi halted at a Brahmin's house to have food. The host was happy to receive his guest. After the initial exchange of pleasantries, he said to Vararuchi, Sir, there is a river behind the house. Please have your bath and come. Food will be ready by then. Suddenly, a mischievous idea flashed across Vararuchi's mind. So he said, I am only happy to accept your invitation, but I will accept it only on some conditions. I need Veeralipattu, silk, to wear after my bath. I will have food only after feeding 100 people. I need 108 dishes for my meal, and I need to eat 3 people after the meal. After my meal, 4 people should carry me. If you are willing to meet my demands, I will accept your invitation. The host was puzzled. He shook his head to indicate that it was impossible for him to meet the demands. His daughter was standing behind the door listening to Vararuchi's words. Father, don't worry. Please ask him to go for his bath. His demands will be satisfied, she said confidently. Accordingly, her father led Vararuchi to the river and rushed back home. What are you up to? He asked his daughter. Please don't worry, father. I am preparing to receive our guest. He was, in fact, testing you. Veeralipattu means loincloth. Feeding 100 implies observing Vaishyam, worship of the gods with sacrificial offerings like flowers, sandal paste, havises, melted ghee or clarified butter, and other accessories. As for the 108 dishes, Ginger pickle is considered as 108 dishes. When he said he wants to eat 3 people after the meal, he was hinting at chewing betel leaves, lime, edible quality, and areca nut. Finally, when he demanded 4 people to carry him, all he meant was that he wants to sleep on a cot, she explained. The father heaved a sigh of relief. He became proud of his daughter's intelligence. When Vararuchi came back from the river, all his demands were met one by one. He was astonished to see the arrangements. Vararuchi was in all admiration for his host, for his intelligence, and also for the hospitality extended to him. Oh, great one, credit must go to my daughter. When I failed to grasp the real meaning of your words, it was my daughter who came by my rescue. She was clever enough to fathom the real meaning of your words, the Brahmin disclosed. Vararuchi was highly impressed by the girl's intelligence. He expressed his desire to marry her. Her father willingly gave her in marriage to Vararuchi. The newlyweds left the Brahmin's house and in a few days reached Vararuchi's house. They led a happy life. Days passed. The birth of his 12 children. One breezy evening, Vararuchi and his wife were sitting and talking in the garden behind their house. Suddenly, Vararuchi dragged her to him and began to caress her long tresses. As he did so, he noticed a scar on her crown and asked her about it. Oh, the scar. I am an adopted child of my parents. I don't know who I was born to. It was almost 18 years ago. One day, my foster mother was bathing in the river when she saw me as an infant in a raft of plantain sheets with a burning torch stuck on my crown. Luckily, I was still alive. She rescued me with the help of my foster father. I am lucky that they adopted me as their child and that I am married to a great soul like you. She said, her voice trembling with emotion. Varuchi was shocked to realize that his wife was none other than the child born to the Paraya couple years ago. At that moment, he became convinced of the power of fate. He then confided to her about his long and hoary past, so strongly linked with hers right from her birth in the Paraya family. This is a turning point in our life. I propose to spend the rest of my life on a long pilgrimage. You are most welcome to join me, he told her lovingly. I am only blessed to accompany you till the end, she replied with an obliging smile. The couple then set off from their house. After wandering about in many places, they reached the long stretch of land across the Sahya Mountains, which later came to be known as Kerala. Meanwhile, she conceived her first child, but they continued on their journey. She was running her 10th month, and when she went into labor, they were in the middle of a small jungle. She lay behind the thick shrubs and gave birth to a boy, while her husband waited by the wayside. God was kind to her. It was an easy delivery. When Vararuchi realized that the delivery was over, he called out to her, Does the baby have a mouth? Yes, of course, she said. Leave him there and come with me. God will provide him with food and shelter since he can cry. Vararuchi said. He then left the jungle with his wife, meekly following him. The labor had not affected her physical fitness. She felt as fresh as ever. She lived on the water and the fruits from the forests. Thus, in 12 years, she gave birth to 11 children, including a baby girl, but discarded all of them as advised by her husband. She was pregnant again, and this time she wanted to have the child for herself. So, after the delivery, when her husband asked her the usual question, she told him a lie. No, the child is born mouthless. Vararuchi asked her to take him along. She resumed journey with her husband, cuddling the baby to her bosom. Hardly had they taken 10 or 11 steps when all of a sudden the infant became mouthless. The mother could not bear her baby's misfortune and she began to cry loudly. Vararuchi realized what had happened. He took the child to a hilltop and consecrated him there, who later became the famous Vaila Kunnilappan, the deity at Vaila Kunna. The couple then continued their pilgrimage and attained salvation subsequently. The 12 children born to Vararuchi and his Paraya wife are together known as the famous Parayi Pettu Pandirugulam. They are Mezhathol Agnihotri, Naranathu Brandan, Uliyannur Perindachan, Agavur Chatan, Pakkanar, Vadudala Nayar, Karaikyalamma, Uppukootan, Thiruvaran Kayathu Pananar, Vallon, Rajagan, and Vaila Kunnilappan. The following pages narrate a few interesting anecdotes about Parai Pettu Pandirugulam.